If you focus your leadership not on the results the company needs, but what each individual person in my group needs. What do they need to be inspired and motivated for their own life? And if I do that, I really believe that then they're going to be much more open to listening to now, here's what we got to do as a team. Listen to people and inspire them to regain the hope that they need to achieve what they want in life.
Hello, everyone. We're talking to Donzel Leggett. Hello, Donzel.
Hello. Great to be here, Larry. Thank you for having me.
Donzel we're going to talk about lessons from bringing those people together and making big things happen consistently, which is a unique skill set. We're going to talk how he got there, how he learned how to be able to be an impact person in those arenas, but also, we're now he's launched his own consulting company and is taking the limits off of his outreach, which is great, And so you're picking up when someone like Donzel with a mountain of experience comes and writes a book and puts it down. What you're getting, the distilled essence of years, a lifetime of trial and error, and where he's learned, in stories, mountains of, they talk about, you got to have a story to tell. Well, this is the result of thousands of stories. And as a result, the distilled essence kind of comes like what works, what doesn't work, what's, what the odds are. And so tell us about the book and why you're excited about it, why we should be excited about it, Donzel.
Again, Larry, thanks for having me on. And what a way to start the show. Just a tremendous amount of energy that you bring to the table. So thank you so much. Name of the book is Make Your Destiny Happen. You can see it behind me a little bit there. I'm holding one here as well. It's available right now on Amazon. The subtitle is Take Control of Your Life with the Destiny Development Delta Model for Transformational Success. And so a lot of what Larry talked about is what my book brings to the table, why you should go out and buy it. A lot of leadership books, and I've read a lot of them over the course of my 32-year career. I've gone through so many different leadership experiences, trainings, these types of things. And one of the things you tend to find out is many of these sort of leadership practices that come in and out every year where they study some very successful people, distill down a couple of key points that they do really well, and then try to make it available to the masses. Say, hey, follow this, do that kind of a thing. What they tend to forget is everyone has different circumstances. Everyone has different challenges, different environments, and not everyone had the same circumstances that allowed those people to be successful. Some of them already had funding. Some of them already had specific training. Some of them were just in the right place, the right time, and they tend to leave those factors out. And so what my book tries to do is say, first of all, we need to focus on you as an individual. This is about helping you become the very best person that you can be, being the very best leader you can be. And one distinction I make is it doesn't matter what your position is. You don't have to be a guy like Larry who has his own podcast with global reach. You don't have to be the producer of this show. You don't have to be, a vice president or CEO. Everyone is a leader, whether you're a cashier, whether you're a bank teller, whether you're a construction worker, whether you just stay home with your kids or whatever it is, or a student, you're the leader of your life. And so my book tries to do is help you take charge and control of your life by establishing or transforming your leadership to do that, establishing a vision on what you want to do, and then helping you put a plan together to make it happen. So we have a part of our model that's all about transforming your leadership, take control of your life. And the key part that usually does not come with these other models is then what do you do with that? How do you operationalize that with key steps that specifically say, do this, 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 and this, and that'll allow you to make your destiny happen. That's what's unique about this book. It's the what of sort of, or the how of transforming yourself in your leadership, the why of that, and then it's the what. What do I do? What do I do now, and how do I keep it going? Larry noted earlier, a lot of us would get a great momentum going. It's kind of like our beginning of the year. We have these New Year's resolutions, and then by February 15th, we've already forgotten about it because other things happen. What our book tries to do is help provide you with the structure and the incentive and inspiration to keep pursuing your dream. So that's what's different about the book. We can get into a lot more of it later.
Well, and the thing, Donzel, the idea is that, uh, my thing behind this podcast, my community, and everything is other people are winning. Why not you? And I think people could pick that theme up from your book. And the thing about a winner is, winners kind of have got to the point where they understand there's a uniqueness about, you know, uh, things they want to do and, the things that they gravitate to, and they don't apologize for it, but they do feel the people that go around like sheep and are bullied, everybody could raise their head up and do something great, but the masses out there are bullied into submission and mediocrity, and a winner can't stand that. A winner is, you just can't take, that's why they leave home. That's why they move to other parts of the country. That's why they, do things that their friends can't understand. Why'd you do that? It's like, I can't breathe here. It's too stifling. And they have something inside of them that wants to come out. And it's important that to realize, like I heard, I wish I could get his name, and I'll put his name out uh, as soon as the next time I'll write it down so I can tell everybody. But he's great on understanding psychology and all. He says there is no such thing. He said kids all grow up. Nobody has grown up in the same house. If you've got twins, their experience is going to be different. The oldest grows up in a house. The next one grows up in a different house. This second child grows up in a house where there's a sibling, and the parents have already been through the experience of, they've already had some trial and error on what works and what doesn't work, and made some mistakes, learned some lessons. But then the third child or whatever, like there is no such thing as everybody came from the same environment. It's always complex. And plus the parents are going through different things. They have different economic things they go through. And it's important to understand, like everyone you run into is unique. And I had yesterday, in our family, we had one of my long-term cousins. He's younger than I am, and I've seen him since he was born. And he passed away. That's what happens. That's what happened. He had a full life. He left a great family, great Christian people. I mean, solid. There's no regrets. He knew where he was going, but pain and agony. You're going through it and all. But the thing is that the life he lived. I was thought. You think about his life. He grew up and he had a brother that just bullied the crap out of him. My cousin, and I
Yeah.
go into their family. It's like, what's the dynamic there? And I'm sure it wasn't as rough as when I saw it all the time, but it's like they're a great loving family, but they had their dynamic. Every family's got a
Yes.
dynamic in it.
All families do.
And there's a reason for it.
Yep.
And then there's another thing. We talked to, one of the other cousins who lives down in the area. My sister called, let him know, it's kind of spread the word. And, she was surprised by his reaction. It's like, he was like, she thought, okay, what he'll say is, okay, I'll run over there and comfort the family. They only live like 20 miles away. But his thing was, that wasn't his reaction. And his reaction was, what do you want me to do about it? It's like, what do you expect me to do? And I'm sure he'd gotten 100 phone calls, from everybody in the area. These are two guys who grew up together, And so, I told my sister, I said, there's things there, there's a different dynamic going on there. We know they're both fantastic people. We know they loved each other. I mean, we do reunions together. We do this, that, the other. So there was no bad blood anywhere. I said, maybe it was the fact that he just emotionally couldn't go over there and face the family at that moment. You know what I'm saying? That might have been it, and he just didn't know how to react. And so everybody reacts different because they were raised different. And And this one was raised an only son, an only child. And so the only children are raised, the middle child. And so as you're building it, then you take a company, Donzel. Then you take a company, and like you say, you got 9,000 employees in 40 different facilities. Uh, it is a challenge to bring everybody together, but if you don't bring them together, they're not going to be as effective. They got to be a unity, and they got to say, okay, we see things different, we're raised different, we got different skill sets, but let's come in together and see what we can do to push this company, this product, this cause forward. And and there are things you can do, and what I want to tell people about your book that uh, in my endorsement, I haven't even seen the book yet, but endorsing it because what you have is Donzel has read all the leadership books. He's probably plowed through most of the John Maxwell books. And, John is a friend of mine, and I think he kind of more or less, to me, invented the leadership category and made it such a big thing. Has had a lot of major impact on that. But there's been a lot of books written on it. The people who need to keep their mouth shut are the people that don't have credentials. And that's why, when someone like you gets on this podcast, whether you know it or not, you have run a gauntlet of being examined, your credentials examined by the podcasting team, because they know, the thing is, I just can't I can't get blood out of a stone, and
I
you
don't
know
think any
what?
of us can.
We we should be reading those things to keep ourselves fresh and excited because it's the hardest thing for all of us, Donzel, is to keep
Yeah.
ourselves excited. If we're not
Yes.
excited, we
That's
can't
right.
blame anybody else. But,
That's right.
fresh ideas, fresh stories, fresh friendships, and fresh ways of saying similar things or fresh insights on aspects of leadership because ideas are, don't care who use them. And someone's got a great idea. As soon as you hear about it, you could take and run with it. And as opposed to people who are well meaning, but they're professors inside universities and they study from a distance, just like they study, tigers in the wild or tigers in the zoo. And maybe they worked at the zoo and fed the tiger for 30 years. And they might think they've observed the tiger and they think they know how the tiger thinks. They have no idea how the tiger thinks. No idea. And so, if you're someone who studies from a distance, I interviewed 50 leaders of industry from, Elon Musk down, and here's what I found. Here's what makes them tick. You don't know what makes them tick. You don't know how Jeff Bezos thinks just because you had a little short interview with him. And because what happens is you get to the top because you're willing to be flexible and you're willing to deal with the complexities and you make some sense out of it, like you have the patterns and everything. But like people like me and you, we're learning every day. We're learning new. So how did you get going uh early in life? Where did all this drive come from, or this interest? What were your interests earlier on? What was going on in your mind as you kind of came up and was growing up that led you down this path?
Absolutely. In fact, I talked a little bit about I have a podcast as well that just finished season one. It's a very short one, but I tell like 5 different stories. Again, you talked about stories, and one of them mentions being woken up by the roosters at 5 a.m. Absolutely, I've been woken up by the roosters. So growing up there, I was around a lot of different people. But when you grow up on an island, no matter how much you get, you get exposed to what's possible outside, the island feels limited. And it's kind of like what you were saying earlier. When you're someone who wants to do something, at some point you just feel like you're in a cage and you got to break out. So growing up on the island, even though I was surrounded by so many great people and family that really nurtured me, my great grandmother was a big impact on me. And she always would push me, always would say, nobody's better than you, but you're not better than anybody else. The difference for you is going to be how hard you work because you have it, but what are you going to do with it? And that always stuck with me because she didn't have the same opportunities I did. So I was like, all right, I got to make things happen. And so from that combination of that challenge, from seeing what I, hear from my great grandmother, what I couldn't do, if I worked hard, and then saying, I got to, if I can get out of this island, get access to the rest of the world, I really applied myself. How can I make a difference? And that's what I was always thinking. So I went to school at Purdue University. I wanted to play college football. I was there for 4 years, played in the Big Ten, loved it, but had some injuries and things like that. But finished out my both bachelor's and master's degree, started working. And when I got in the industry, I really was the first time that I've started seeing how impactful leadership could be. Because you talk about some people feeling like they're stuck. And, factory workers are a really great example. You get a lot of people who start off young and their plan is to work there at the factory for a couple of years, make some money, then do something else. But then they have a kid, and then they buy a house, and then they buy a car, and now they're financially stuck because they need that job and they can't figure out a way to break away. They don't want to take that risk. And so 20 years later, they're still there. But now they feel like, okay, where's my life going? And so I had a chance to really impact and make some changes and do some things that got people excited and got their energy back and got their passion back and made them feel like, you know what, I have a future. And just by doing small things, starting with listening to them, asking what their dreams were, asking what I could do to help, even though I was only 25 and some of them were 55, it made a difference. And that's what started framing my thought process to, hey, if you focus your leadership not on the results the company needs, but what each individual person in my group needs, what do they need to be inspired and motivated for their own life? And if I do that, I really believe that then they're going to be much more open to listening to, now, here's what we got to do as a team. Here's what we have to do to drive results. And as I started creating that model and applying it over and over and over again, starting in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So think about that, in the middle of the country, to then expanding that out to the rest of the country, to then Mexico and Canada, to then China, Brazil, India. It worked everywhere. Listen to people and inspire them to regain the hope that they need to achieve what they want in life, not what I want. Then they're going to be much more open to listen to what we have to do as a team if they know that I care about them and I'm willing to help them get to what they want. Now, I'm simplifying it quite a bit, but that to me was a difference in leadership that I saw, and that's what framed my thinking. How can I help people? And by helping people achieve great results. I tell so many stories in this book. That's one of the differences in this book versus a lot of leadership books, where they really hammer you with theory, because a lot of them are not applicator or appliers. They haven't done the actual work. So I have a theory and a model, but every time I introduce something, a story of what I did to help inspire people to do something dramatically different, to achieve results in an organization or across the international organization dramatically different than no one else had done before. Um, Introduce the fact that I failed, I've lost, I've quit. But like you said earlier, when you're a winner, you don't let that hold you down. You keep coming back. You keep striving to achieve your goals. And so a lot of stories in this book help frame for people. It's never too late to start, and it's always the right time to take control of your life and be the leader of your life and make your destiny happen.
How old were you when you got that, you got that insight, you got that position where you could go in and you were starting to ask the questions, and how did that occur to you?
It's very funny. I started my career as an engineer. And the only way for me that I thought made sense for an engineer to get results, the other engineers didn't do it this way, but it just didn't make sense to me that they did it the way they did. And maybe it was because of my upbringing, but they did kind of what you talked about with these professors. They did the engineering job from the office. Everything they did was from the office. They never really talked to the operators. And what we were doing is designing systems that the operators had to use. So common sense would say, how can you design something that someone else is going to use? You don't talk to them. It doesn't make any sense to me. So I started spending all my time on the production floor, on every project I had, reviewing it with the operators, asking them, does this even make sense? Is this the right way to do it? What do you think? And then I even went further and I asked them to train me on their jobs so that I could understand exactly the challenges they were dealing with. So I spent that first year I was there doing that. Well, our manager abruptly left. He left the company, and they didn't know at the time they were trying to fill the job. This was the biggest food plant in the world at that time, so big job. And the guy that was going to fill the job hadn't made a decision, and then all of a sudden he calls me one day, and I'd only been there out of college 1 year. I was out of the university 1 year, so I had no idea why this guy's calling me. He's the big boss, and he says, "Hey, are you going to interview for this job to be the boss there, the manager there?" And I was like, "Why would I interview for this? I'm just out of college for 1 year. What are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, the people there are making a lot of noise that they want you to be the manager." So, long story short, basically the people in the department went to their union presidents, the unionized plant. They went to the union president and said, "Hey, we've had a lot of problems with management. This one guy, this engineer, is the only one that's ever listened to us. He actually cares about us. We can feel it. Make him the manager. Go to the plant manager and tell him this guy needs to be the manager." That's how I got the call. And that was my first indication that, okay, the way that I do things clearly is different. But I still wasn't sure I should take the job. And it wasn't until one of my best friends who was in the union, he and I would hang out together, play basketball together. And he told me, he said, "Look, they tried to do a petition. I didn't sign it because I didn't want to show any influence." He said, "But all I can tell you is you're a really good engineer. Everybody knows that. But we need a leader. We need someone who cares about us. We need someone who defend us. And we all believe it's you. Now you could walk away and stay as an engineer if you want." He said, "But if you take this job, I'll make sure that you never have to worry about any problems from me. Don't worry about that. You just do what you got to do because we need you." And I took the job. And from that point forward, I started seeing the impact of how I cared about people individually, and not just, on the surface, but really getting to know them and finding out what I could do to help them achieve their personal goals. And in the book, there's so many stories of transformation, of people being way to like just like someone who was disgruntled and just problematic, to the next moment, they're like the best guy, all because they were paid attention to, listened to, and focused on. So that's kind of where it came from. And I just started doubling down on it. And that's when I started building the model to bring that to life.
If I put you on the spot and I say, what's one of those stories that you could tell us? Just kind of give an example of that.
Yeah, yeah. So, and this is in the book. There was a couple that I worked with that were actually operators in the department. They were both married, and they both thought like I came in, and the guy who had been the manager. This was a second job that I had. The guy that had been the manager kind of got pushed aside. I didn't know that. They recruited me in because they felt like this guy wasn't doing a good job. But this guy and these two were best friends. I mean, they were like best friends. So they did not like the fact I was coming in there. I was very young. I was like 26, 27. They didn't like that either. And there was also some things that were going on in the department a little bit shady. Some what we call favoritism, where they kind of got whatever they wanted because the boss was their best friend. So I came in and there's 500 people there. I can't, first of all, I don't know you. Why would I continue to give you favoritism? Plus, it's not fair to everybody else. And so I made some changes that allowed everyone else to get fair access. And they didn't get that same access that they had before. They were not happy about it, to say the least. And they set out to make things very difficult for me. And they did for the first 6 months I was there. But I started coming, the husband worked on third shift. So I would come in at 4 a.m. every morning and just spend 2 hours trying to get to know this guy, just to get to know him, talk to him, understand what's going on. First 2 weeks, he ignored me completely. After that, he started just complaining about things that needed to be fixed. But then when he'd go home, I'd work with our team to get the things fixed. After a month, there's no more things to fix. So he's got to talk to me. And so we spent 2 hours every morning talking from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. And all of a sudden, he went from telling everyone, don't cooperate with this guy, don't do anything helpful for this guy. He wouldn't help anyone. He wouldn't do anything. To he started going around telling people, hey, man, this guy's the real deal. This guy actually cares about people.
Yeah.
We need to do everything we can to make the plant better. We got to do extra. So that was his story. His wife ran for union steward and she won. Her platform was to make my life miserable. That was her platform, right? She wins. Same thing though. I'm working with her. and we're dealing with issues. And she starts realizing, all right, this guy is not a bad guy. He actually does care about people. And she went from, again, her platform, I got to make his life miserable, to, again, she and I working together became the role model for how union and management should work. And she started, again, sending the message to her team: we need to outperform everybody else because this guy is fighting for us and we need to fight for him. I mean, so that's a great, I'll even cap it to this, it's a great work relationship. But then I had a tragedy where my son broke his leg. He was only 5 years old. He was in the hospital for a month in traction. It was very traumatic to me. It was a very bad situation. But the first people to ever visit him in the hospital were that husband and wife.
Wow.
They came to visit him, take care of, and told him, your dad is like a hero to everybody, at the plant. And then to top it off, you can't see this, but I'm going to grab it. I'm going to come off camera here for a second. But when I left, they had this made for me.
Wow.
This couple. And basically it says, Donzel Leggett, a true leader of star quality. And they said, we want you to have this and keep it with you wherever you are, to remind you that it's your character and care for people that makes the difference in your leadership, and no one else can ever take that away from you. So hopefully that's a story that's meaningful and for you and your audience.
Absolutely, absolutely incredible. And this plant, you said the biggest food plant. Where was it? Where was it, and what kind of food plant?
This was in Iowa, and this was a cereal plant.
And just out of the blue, and you have to just, they ain't calling, have a petition to get your permission for these things to happen. They just happen. And so you have to adjust. And sometimes you make decisions in those periods of change that don't work out for the best. How did you ever go from that to where you find yourself in a situation where you're on the verge of quitting, and or you run into a big disaster?
I do want to mention, I really love that you brought that up, because one of the things I like on some of the feedback I've received on the book is that people feel like I did not shy away from that. That I talk a lot about that. Obviously, I highlight the fact where I've had my issues and quit or didn't achieve what I wanted to achieve. But I talk about that this is really hard work. A lot of books kind of gloss over that. But one of the things you said earlier, it all starts with us. Is what are we going to do as individuals to take control of our lives? I spend a lot of time on that, and I spend a lot of time on the fact that the world changes every millisecond, and bad things are coming. Storms are coming, and we have to continually develop to build the capability to withstand those storms, or when we get knocked down, get back up, or we get destroyed, rebuild. So a lot of the book is talking about that. And so I've got those experiences. And one experience I can tell you that's not in the book, I started in my hometown. So Key West, Florida, I talked about. I had a dream, have a business in Key West. I was able to start a restaurant in Key West right off of Duval Street, which is the famous drive right there. There's a big bar down there everybody knows called Sloppy Joe's. Sloppy Joe's, my place was across the street from Sloppy Joe's. All right. So right there, you'll see it. I've put a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of energy into this thing. I worked with my mother to have my business partner was a chef, sit down with my mom and take all the recipes from my family and convert them into restaurant recipes. So this was personal, right? This was a personal, deep, my family was involved. My mom was proud. My mom did a commercial for us on the radio. It was prideful, unfortunately for me and for us. All right. This was 2003 and 4. And then 2005, we had one of the worst hurricane seasons ever. You just mentioned storms come. So remember Hurricane Katrina that hit New Orleans? Well, before it hit New Orleans, it came through past the Florida Keys, not a direct hit, but enough to scare, they had to evacuate the island. And then 3 weeks later, Hurricane Rita came through, which did hit the islands, right? So those two storms, both forced evacuation. Tourism dropped 50% for the next year. All right. The rent on my building was $30,000 a month. Who paid that, do you think? Because there was no one coming. There's no tourists. And it came to a point where I had to make the very difficult decision of recognizing this is not going to work. I'm going to have to quit. I'm going to have to give up. I'm going to have to close this restaurant. I'm going to have to give the discipline news to my mom. that the place she gave all these recipes from, where her name is on the menu, that it's going to have to go and to tell my sister who has been going there and helping my friend and all these things I had to do. My wife was helping with marketing, but there's points in our lives we have to understand and admit we made a mistake. But the first thing I did after I was able to get out of that, debrief, what could I have done better?
Right.
What could I have done better? And I took that list of those things and I immediately applied them. And I said, going forward, I'm looking at this as like a second MBA, because in an MBA, I'm doing book learning, but this was real world learning. I lived through building a business model, building a marketing plan, going through all those things, but not having an emergency plan, we call a business recovery plan, or planning for I didn't have all. So there was so many lessons learned. I didn't own the building, which was another big factor, having that overhead. So I went through all these things and I said, you know what? That was expensive and it was painful, but it was the greatest learning experience I could have had. And now going forward, I'm better equipped to win.
Absolutely. And I think that touches on where so many of the people that have not lived it design something that on paper looks fantastic, sounds fantastic. You can get on stage and you can be a keynote speaker and get everybody excited. But it has flaws because there's no margin for error. There's no wiggle room. And life, you need margins for error for the surprises that are always going to come. Always going to come. And you got to have a buffer, a margin. You can't design a plan uh, and based off if everything works perfect and expect it to win.
That's right.
Thanks so much for spending some time with us. And what would you say that you would wrap up this portion that you'd want people to take away from what we've covered so far?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, remember that the book is out. Make My Destiny Happen, or Make Your Destiny Happen, by Donzel Leggett. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Goodreads as well. Amazon, the hardcover, you can order. It's also available on the ebook. I'm working on the audiobook. Should have it out by the end of this year. So know that. They can Google me or Google the name of the book and find our website and get more information on us as well. So that the only thing I want to leave people with is, and this is kind of the line I like to just make sure people hear is, um, step up and be the leader of your life. You are the leader of your life. Don't leave it in the hands of someone else. Don't leave it in the hands of fate. It's up to you. Take charge and make your destiny happen. And if you need some help figuring it out, certainly check out my book. But even if you don't, I ask you to reassess. If you feel like you're stuck, if you feel like you're just not moving forward in the way that you want to, if you feel like you're in a malaise after maybe a certain amount of time, you thought, man, I should be somewhere else, look inward and really figure out what is it that you want. And then say, you know what? I'm going to take control and I'm going to make that happen. You have the power to do it. You have to choose to.
Well said. Fantastic. And so, thanks again, Donnell, and looking forward to continuing this conversation. Thanks so much.
Thank you.